There you go.
Okay, sweet.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Copy that. Switch that.
Can I ask where you got your name from? What the inspiration was?
Well, my name's Houston.
Oh.
So yeah, so that's my birth name.
That makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah, I was named after a boat builder named Houston Mondi, who my dad worked for when he was young, and sort of like my dad's mentor.
That's really fucking cool, actually. That's probably the most creative name reasoning I've ever heard, if that makes sense, and doesn't come off as condescending or pompous, but that's amazing. That's amazing. I was really curious on that.
Yeah, my dad's a big time sailboat addict, and like my oldest sister, her middle name is Alden Miriam because there's Alden boats and Miriam boats. So, like,
really, yeah.
And then my other sister's middle name is Hazard because we're related to Hazard Perry, and Matthew Perry, who like opened Japan. Those brothers.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I guess of all the things to be addicted to, boats is probably the best. You know.
Well, it's the expensive one.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, thank you again for I guess being open to the. I don't know. I gotta turn the alerts off. Thank you for just being open to this whole thing and you know, taking the time to
we got
listen to this.
35 minutes. Let's get what we can out of it.
Yeah. So I remember you saying that you have a background with a lot of mathematics, a lot of physics, and general scientific topics, and a lot of what the entire fractal theory and the cycle theory has noticed is that there's a lot of parallels between price movements and volume distributions and timing that you see in the real world, similar to that of how Fibonacci sequences appear on price charts as well, because somewhere in the DNA of the universe it was decided that, hey, this particular ratio is gonna coalesce and become inherent with everything else that comes.
But, we're dealing with cycles. It's
right.
You got your T2s, your T13s, your T21s, your T35s, and these things are just going to reset and reset and reset and reset. So we're probably seeing lots of that.
Yeah. I guess the oddity of it is throughout that I noticed that T21 and T35, which have been talked about for a long time, and those who came up with it, I would call them geniuses, just from my own opinion, for noticing it and digging into the data behind it without anybody beforehand, at least in the context of what is this GameStop and AMC saga that everybody is witnessing. The funny thing to me is that if you take the intervals of T21, T plus 21, and T plus 35, you actually end up having these ratios of, okay, what's 21 over 35? What does that simplify to? 3 over 4. In music, you have a time signature that is, 3/4. So every fourth, measure or bar. I'm a blues player, so I'm not really into the whole music theory thing. I can only play in 4/4. But every fourth instance of something, you have where things sync up, right? And that really stood out to me when I had that little realization. But I guess the little way to wrap that up and put it into a nice solid fucking topic for discussion is the fractals, the volume distribution, the pricing, all of these mechanics are all following a very odd sequence, and that sequence is composed of subsequences. And eventually you run into the conundrum of, well, if you're going through this nested iteration of sequences, what is the smallest point? Where do things become indivisible? And that's pretty much what we've been in the pursuit of, I'd say. That's kind of been the the grand solution.
I mean, it's like my water bill is once every 2 months. My garbage and trash bill is once every 3 months. So every 6 months they match up, and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm out more money.
right. It's such a intuitively when you put it through that lens, it makes a lot of sense. But if you go back to like let's say after you had all the buzz happen during the squeeze in January, right after you had some particular individuals modify the way that capitalism works, where you have supply and demand. If you just take away the demand, well, sorry about your luck. You had a lot of attention put onto GameStop, AMC, and other various meme stocks. And the research and the data and all of these findings all continue to astound me. I guess when you recognize that you have this cyclicality, you have these patterns, you have these reiterations, all that are adhering to some grand thing, some grand constraint or constraints of some sort. Where else does that apply? And when you see things like there's a member of the community named mkriegs007 here that has noticed for quite some time, and I think everybody else kind of has, but never was able to put their finger on it, that the cryptocurrency market will behave in an inverse correlation with that of the meme stocks. Which I had noticed but never dug into. After digging into it, I came across a word called liquidity. And I had heard it before, I knew what it meant, but when you consider the intrinsic definition of liquidity, which is just how frictionless, if you will, to tie in some of the scientific terms, how frictionless is it to convert some asset or commodity into raw cash? Cash is king. Cash is the most liquid thing. I started digging into that, and then I listened to Dave Lauer, and he was talking about market fragmentation and the adverse effects. And I think there's too much liquidity in the markets. I think it is, in fact, its own ticking time bomb. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I draw a parallel to look at like television viewership ratings from the 1950s. Right? You had 3 networks. People could only watch those 3 networks, and so the TV shows that were on at that time had viewer ratings higher than anything that can ever be achieved today. Like absolutely, more people were watching Mr. Ed in 1955 than have ever watched the Super Bowl today. Like it's just bonkers for ratio of viewers.
No.
And today we've got a problem where people aren't watching TV anymore, right? Because they're distracted. They've got video games, they've got streaming services, they've got movie theaters, they've got concerts, they got 150 other ways to entertain themselves. And so what we have is we've got this glut of entertainment and only so much time in our life to spend in each little moment.
Right.
So with the creation of all these different securities, we've got hundreds and hundreds and thousands of new crypto tokens and coins out there. We've got weird securities derivatives that are being created every day where they're packaging mortgages or they're packaging life insurance policies or they're dividing this stuff up. Is that the attention of the cash available is being spread out among so many different outlets and securities and derivatives that, there's going to be a weeding out eventually. Something's got to give. Because not all of them can be growing at all times forever, because no one can actually be that diversified.
Right.
It can't. So, what we see out of crypto right now is we're seeing like a weekly pump and dump. Every Sunday at midnight, crypto just craps out. as these dudes are selling off throughout the week, and then it slowly builds back up again. And then Sunday night they dump everything, and then throughout the week they slowly build it back up again. And these hedge funds are getting their liquidity out of pump and dumping these cryptos day in or week in, week out. It's like clockwork. It's clockwork. Every single Sunday you watch crypto just take a shit.
Right.
And yeah, so because they can do 100-to-1 margin on crypto, but they can't do with the stock market. And so the liabilities they have are absolutely insane with the crypto market. And so they're gambling addicts that are just playing with it, and they're using that for their more legit concrete obligations to stay liquid in there.
Right. Are you familiar with the term supplemental liquidity provider or anything that would surround it by chance?
Hit that like you
late on
filthy
me.
animals.
So a liquidity provider is basically just somebody who can arrange deals. They're not a market maker, but they're able to take various verticals or match various horizontals of different markets or different pieces of a layer within markets and match them together. It's a conversion, if you will.
So like if someone has like Microsoft stock, they just want to swap it directly for Amazon stock or something like that.
Yeah, or they want to convert it to Bitcoin, right? You have these entities who are able to provide that, and that's their shtick. I've throughout my research and all of the other pieces of wisdom from people who have been kind enough to share their experience within markets, I think that the amount of liquidity in our markets is extremely dangerous. And obviously, you concur with that. But to put it this way, when you have all of this interconnectivity between various layers and the speed at which you can convert or transmit a form of entropy, right? If you consider liquidity as not only a financial term, but also as that of scientific origin, well, liquidity is what? It's measuring a liquid of some sort. Well, okay, what's another property of a liquid? How about viscosity, right? Which isn't just exclusive to liquid, but my point being is that if you have an extremely viscous medium, the friction at which that it will experience while it's transmitting energy from itself to that of which is around it will be extremely low, right? Well, where does friction derive some of its value from? We call that inertia, right? So if you have this extremely sensitive system that's all intertwined, that are being intentionally fragmented via things like payment for order flow and the rebates that you can get, you have this self-consuming cyclical incentive to fragment your entity. If you're a bank or if you're a prime broker, if you're an exchange, this, that, or whatever, the smallest, the most minute of any form of emission of force will be experienced throughout the whole entire system, right? Or at least a lot more than that of what it used to be.
It's like pushing on a train car.
Yeah.
But 27 cars down is going to move also.
Right.
Yeah.
But now imagine instead of moving the train cars that you sit and wait to have move across the tracks while you're in traffic. Now imagine, the Thomas the Train Engine little train cars that you would push as a kid. That's what the conversion of liquidity, it seems, throughout our markets has transitioned to. And it's alarming. My last little observation of that is for each fragmentation of market layers, you have this oh so inconvenient chronological event of settlement times where the amount of failure to delivers in the equities market is going to take 2 weeks. Oh, and sorry about that. The short interest from our self-regulatory bodies also take 2 weeks.
Yep. And when they get caught doing that, they get a slap on the wrist. Summer of last year, the SEC did a random survey of Citadel's payment for order flows. They did 500. They took 500 orders, and they saw that that Citadel had purposely delayed settlement of those trades by months on like 417 of them.
Right.
And so
I didn't know that.
Citadel is making billions off of delaying these payment for order flows, because a lot of the stocks, because the way they make their money off this payment for order flow is you order a stock for $100. They're looking for it cheaper elsewhere to buy it, and then pocketing the change, right?
Right.
And so some of these stocks that people were buying, Citadel couldn't find it cheaper. So they're waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for weeks or months to go by for the stock to finally drop in price, and then they deliver it.
Right.
And that delay, they got fined for it. And their fine was $700,000, right? They probably made $40 billion in the period of time off of those stocks.
Yeah.
And so the big problem, and one of the ways, holistically as a system, as a government, as regulatory bodies, we need to make these punishments absolutely painful, so that if they don't follow through with their obligations, they face fines that could take them out of existence.
Yeah.
If you fail to deliver after 2 days, you should owe 150% the price of the stock. Done. That's it. No T21s, no T35s. After 2 days, if you can't do it, you owe that customer 150% of what they paid.
Yeah.
And if you do it 4 times, you don't get to trade anymore.
Right.
So there needs to be something absolutely just painful about not delivering.
Yeah.
In the system.
I see this quote going around a lot of if the penalty is a fine, that means it's legal if you have the money, right? Yep. And especially when you have a disproportionate, an extremely lopsided ratio between the penalty and that of which you profited from, and with all the new revelations coming out with the Robinhood debauchery from January and those involved,
They all committed perjury.
Yeah, Hey, chat, who lied again? I just want to make sure I have it right. Let me know. Tweet me on Twitter with a hashtag too. It's amazing, man. Like when I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole of that, because it's very easy to not escape from it, but
what's crazy is the DTCC with the non-fast system has implemented absolutely painful failure to deliver rules. So the fast system is the electronic system that all the stocks are trading on, but there are still stocks that trade via courier delivery services. So if you're buying some off-exchange stock, they've got to actually literally give it to a bicycle messenger, and they have to bicycle it between brokerages. And so if you fail to deliver after 2 days on a certificate stock, it's 130% fine on that stock. They're doing it for the non-fast system stocks, but they aren't doing it for the electronically traded ones. So why the discrepancy? Why not actually do this for the fast system stocks?
Sounds like some implicit incentivization.
Yeah.
Ties in really well with a business model that is very Bernie Madoff-esque,
Yeah.
I guess, let's see. I want to make sure I don't take up too much of your time. We got about another 18 minutes or so. I guess I want to ask next, the motto that the channel has, or the community that has come about, we've really figured out that a lot of this trading that we're seeing and the blatant misrepresentation of equity pricing for particular stocks is primarily based upon time, and time is ultimately, that's the center of everything. But what we also noticed is that the share price is not the true metric of which you should be, or at least I would derive the share price from. It's not. The price you see is not what we would consider to be truthful.
There's not a single stock out there that's trading on fundamentals. Not a single
true.
one.
Very true. Very true. Very true. I guess I had come across a document 2.5 months ago, I believe, 3 months ago, and it was the blueprint to a particular set of trading algorithms that are employed by a particular entity that I think everybody knows the name of. And as I was reading through it, that's when I was able to really piece together some of the fractal stuff and the cyclicality. I started noticing how the T21 and T35 fell into it. The mode name, right? So the algorithm profile, if you will, the style of which this automated trading would use, was named TWAP Anonym, which stands for Time Weighted Average Price Anonymity. The entire point is to access dark liquidity providers, so your dark pools, your ATSs, your this, that, or whatever's, but it would base the pricing off of time and only use dark liquidity providers as its primary source for creating orders. It's all time, man. You know, like it's so clear. The writing's on the wall, and it's just, when is this shit charade going to come to a close?
That's waiting game. It's someone wants to get paid, and they're going to have to get paid eventually.
Right.
And the hedge funds are buying as much time as they can. Basically, they're looking for a stay of execution, but they can't last forever.
Right.
We're in a weird position as retail investors. Most of us only invest in what we can afford. And you know what? We can afford to be poor because we've been poor our entire lives. So, if we lose, it's no skin off our back. We're right back where we were.
Right.
So, like, we'll be back to you and I were talking right before we started. Like, I was in the .com industry when the .com bubble first blew up, and making a ridiculous amount of money at 18 years old. And then all of a sudden the .com bubble burst, and I was making coffee for like $8 an hour. Like I've been there. I've
it's all
been in the
relative.
mountaintop, and I've been in the ditch.
It's like that Sinatra number.
Yeah. And we're used to it, and we figured out how to live within that system. But the guys that we're doing battle against, they have never experienced it. They are third generation broker. They are trust fund kids. They are the ones who have been handed everything in their entire life, and they don't know how to operate without this money. These hedge funds, most of them, their clients are paying $1 million or more each to be a member of this hedge fund. Some of the hedge funds like Melvin only have like 16 clients, or 12 billion or whatever dollars it is that they have in their fund as assets under management. And you take away that money, they've got nothing left.
Yeah.
They're done. They inherited $1 billion from daddy. They've never had to work a job in their entire life. They handed it over to Plotkin to do his thing, and Plotkin loses it all.
Yeah.
What are they going to be at Starbucks misspelling names on a cup?
Yeah, the expression that's been used of this short squeeze, the magnitude of it, if everything abides by the supplies of, if everything abides by the laws of supply and demand, then if there's no interference to that, the theoretical price limit would be undefined, right? Yeah. Either way, though, even if you were to set up some definition for it that isn't within that boundary, it comes to be one of the greatest wealth transfers in the entire, I think, history of civilization, as far as the level we're at.
When I wrote my big Twitter thread that kind of launched me into this whole spotlight being put on me, with, I said this can line up to be the greatest transfer of wealth in human history.
Yeah.
And that's provided there isn't some sort of weird interference and shenanigans by regulators and enforcers and government players. But I think we have so many folks that are rich and powerful on our side right now who have bought up these stocks, who, look at the trades that Nancy Pelosi's husband has been making. Like, they are betting that this thing pays off.
Please don't get me suicided. Or you.
Yeah. but they're on our side. So you have to look at it from like a game theory perspective.
Right.
Like, who do you back? Do you back the guys that they've got a limited payoff? Because when you're short selling something, your profit is this, right? But your risk is infinity. And the folks who are on the long side of this that have essentially for the last 9 months absolutely just kicked the crap out of the short sellers with the simple buy and hold.
Right.
Like they have infinite possibilities for wealth after this. So if you are a regulator, if you are a congressperson, you're like, wait a minute, if I back you, you might not exist in 3 months.
Right.
But if I back you, you'll be my sugar daddy from now until eternity.
Right.
So I think they're definitely going to cut ties at some point with the .72s and the Citadels and all those guys, because they see the writing on the wall. They can see that they have a limited future, and that they're just not going to exist.
Yeah.
After a short while.
Yeah.
So that's where I get my confidence from, is that I see that there's a lot of big whales on our side and a lot of powerful people that have been like, you know what? Screw these guys.
Right.
We're going the other way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the same mentality that I think all of these, literally what you just said, word for word. I think if you removed the subjects of that and replaced them with those who are making the bets as these nefarious, careless, irresponsible, big money whomevers, and they were placing their bets on who was probably going to win, which was, if we just keep short selling these stocks that fundamentally have a poor balance sheet at the time, and during a pandemic that has not been seen since 100 years, or of that magnitude, it's surely going to win. It's surely going to work out.
Yeah.
And it's that I don't know what you would call it. It's the lopsidedness of risk to reward, and
yeah,
you
you have infinite reward if you can naked short forever.
Right.
You never have to cover anything.
Right.
Never have to close positions. So essentially you took what was the traditional finance 101 of infinite risk with a short position, and all of a sudden you've got infinite reward because you can naked sell forever. But that was prior to buy and hold.
Right.
And it worked when you could get retail to panic and sell. And now that retail doesn't panic and sell, they actually rejoice when they see the price of a stock go down. It's like, I'm gonna buy more.
Yeah, right.
We're 9 months in, and they have not figured out how to defeat that.
Yeah.
They have not shown that they have the ability to defeat that. We retail investors as a mass, as a whole, as a school of fish, are terrifying to them.
Yeah.
They are so mad and so scared, they don't know what to do. They honestly don't. They like, I'll just make even more shares, so their obligations get even bigger.
Right.
Because they might as well, like, they're a dying man grasping at anything they possibly can to save themselves, and their one method has always been short.
Right.
And that's what they've been doing for 30 years.
Right.
And it's not working for them anymore.
Yeah. I again, trying to invoke physics and other scientific concepts into this. Newton's second law, I believe it is. I should probably brush up on the exact numbering, but for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. If you are going to push the boundaries of a particular mechanic of a particular concept, right? In this case, the concept is markets, and the mechanic is how much can we sell, right? If you start arbitrarily issuing shares in whatever fashion it is, by whatever exploit of mechanics you choose, to artificially create these shares that aren't supposed to exist, or you exploit any other net result that would be that, you're basically trying to create matter. And I think that's Newton's third law, is you can't create or destroy, you can only... So, then you invoke the second law, of which I think is correct, which is, if you're going to push the sheer boundary that is never supposed to ever be violated, then the result of that going wrong will yield that same magnitude. So yeah,
Exactly.
you're gonna see these what a lot of people on Wall Street and all of these extremely biased and obviously agenda having media outlets are going to call, ignorant and uneducated and retail investors, and they're going to throw out the terms and the labels and the thises and that's, all while we're educating ourselves and researching and sticking to our guns. The most valuable thing there is, I think, in all of this is the knowledge and the wisdom that comes with it. The whole entire thing started with being a little curious.
We're in an era of the most educated retail investors in history. I mean, in the last 9 months, people have learned more about trading stocks than the commoners ever known before.
Yeah,
it's pretty remarkable. I wrote a DD back when I was more active on Reddit before this whole YouTube thing took off. I wrote a DD that was kind of just speculating about what I the way I like to call it is true market cap. So the market cap is how many shares exist and what the price is. You multiply them by each other. That's your market cap. So right now, GameStop's at 14 billion, give or take, right? Yeah. But the true market cap is how many shares do people think they own and the value associated with them. So if we've got 1 billion shares out there, GameStop is a $200 billion company. It is a Fortune 20 company, right?
Yeah.
So you divide those billion plus shares. The recent Get It Got survey said maybe as many as 7.7 billion, which might be on the high side. But regardless, we're looking at 2,000% or more of the float is being owned
even
by
just 101%. You have crossed that. Yeah.
So we're fantastical, astronomical, having to play with scientific notation type numbers to be able to do this stuff. And if you've got, let's just use a nice round number of 1 billion shares trading at $200 each. So the market cap's actually $200 billion. Well, you take that true market cap and you divide it by actually how many shares should exist. And we should have a share price that's in the thousands just from that alone. Right. If you delete every synthetic from existence and just go by the supply and demand ratio that should exist, then each share of GameStop should be a couple of grand each right now.
Yeah. And you can only imagine where else this has happened, I didn't mean to take you away from what you were.
No. Yeah. But it's and GameStop's not the only one. We're talking hundreds of stocks that are currently on major exchanges, thousands of stocks that are OTC, probably tens of thousands of stocks that are being transferred over to this expert market that have since been slaughtered by these short attacks. And we saw Lehman Brothers go up 200% today. They haven't existed for 13 years, right? So why is their stock up 200%?
Hold on, I gotta make sure I'm protecting myself here. In case there's something in the air, I really gotta make sure that I don't get infected. There seems to be some fuckery. I mean,
thank you guys.
What?
True leaders.
Should have considered the headset I'm wearing. It's a mess. It's a mess. And it's a race to the bottom. How much can you dilute and divide and ultimately infinitesimate? Is that a word? What is the process of just trying to make this finite?
Atomizing?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And the more you can do that, and it's just a race to the bottom. It really is.
I think the saving grace for these short hedge funds right now is the fact that the banks and prime brokers, they look at those books and they go, "Fuck, I can't cover this."
Yeah.
Right? So they're being, I think, much more lenient with capital and liquidity requirements for these hedge funds than they normally would be, because when Archegos got vaporized back in February and March, there was the 5 big investment banks, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Credit Suisse, Nomura.
Schwab, I think, was a part of those too.
Yeah, sure, yeah. And so we got these 5 big groups. Credit Suisse is still sitting on over $1 billion in unclosed obligations from Archegos because they can't afford to go out and close those positions. So they're just sitting in account. And that I'm sure that other banks are facing the same problems.
Right.
And if they have to start margin calling these groups, these hedge funds, there is no way they can do it. And so they need the guarantee of the Federal Reserve and the Treasury to say, okay, we will spool up the printers for this once in a lifetime event, and then we got to change the system after that, because we can't do this every 6 months.
Right.
So they're I think they're trying to get all their ducks in a row.
Absolutely.
For when this thing absolutely just explodes.
Yeah.
And so we're just in a waiting game now.
Right. Which gives us more time to document evidence and
exactly
help others
right,
become financially literate.
Get ready to get going here, man.
Yeah, no, you're good, brother. I really appreciate it.
Let's do this again. Have a longer talk.
Yeah, absolutely.
After this week, I should have a better idea of how my schedule is going to work, because first week of school and everything.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Yeah, let's do this again. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, likewise, man. Likewise. Thank you again so much for your time and putting up with this shit charade of its own. I really appreciate it, man.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, man.
I'll catch you again.
Yep, take care.
All right, how do we get out of here? I have no idea how to hang up.
You can't close your position. See ya.
He's gone. Okay. Video's gone. That didn't do it.
You could have closed an hour ago.
All right.
Later, brother.
I'm just going to close the window. All right,
yeah,
bye.
just turn your computer off. Houston fucking Wade, ladies and gentlemen. I've been watching him for a very long time. He and his interviews have given me a ton of knowledge and wisdom and logic. Just the all of the guests that he's had and the different viewpoints and that freedom to express any form of idea with an intelligent form of dialogue has been an extremely influential thing. So thank you everybody for coming by. We're just shooting the shit, and that was episode 1. So I will keep everybody up to date on when we do this again. But hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you got to learn a little bit. I don't know, how many times can I say Don't forget his charity stream tomorrow, 12:30 Eastern. Huh. Okay, yeah. Make sure to tune into his charity stream, 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. What is that? Oh, that's right at Market Open for, well, not Market Open, but it's 9:30 a.m. Pacific. Perfect. I'm gonna get going. I'm gonna go pass back out because I'm going on too many hours for me to perform arithmetic on of no sleep. Thank you all so much for being here. Let us know what you thought or think. Thunk. Thank you so much for coming by. I really appreciate it. We're going to do this, I think, a lot more often. Houston is an extremely intelligent fucking mind. And his background and a lot of what the fractal theory stuff and the cycle theory stuff assert has a lot of parallels with science. So it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be really interesting. So yeah, I'm gonna get my ass out of here and into my fucking bed. Thank you all so much. I hope y'all have a good one. Stay hungry, stay foolish. When in doubt, cocks out.